Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Comedy and Magic Podcast. I'm your host, John Marshall.
Yes.
If you're new to the channel, please remember to like and subscribe. Go ahead and smack that bell to be notified of future upcoming episodes. Before I introduce my very special guest, I would like to share with you a compilation showcasing and highlighting Penny Wiggins' career. Here we go.
Am I talking like a ghost? I don't know. I just got excited. Hello, people.
Yeah.
Where'd you get hurt?
I got hurt there. Ow! And there. Ow! And there. Ow!
Yeah, you want to try my shoulder just for the hell of it, please? Yeah. Yeah, you got a broken finger, you idiot.
No, my nickel. My nickel.
For years, I thought my mom had an accent. Turns out it was just vodka.
Call this a new concept. Drive-by psychic reading. I'm feeling very strong vibrations. Ha ha! You, change your oil. You'll thank me later. You will never get married. Don't be angry. It's the
You
truth.
parked in the handicap spot. That is reserved for the disabled.
Oh, my gim tag's on the front seat.
Oh, you know what? I will have you towed out of spite. Happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow. Why? Oh, no! Toto, watch out for the monkeys across the street. Oh, please, Toto, don't die. I need you for my sequel. Twister. Oh, no, Toto. I am. Oh, Mom. I don't think I'm in Kansas anymore. Toto!
Joining me today in the virtual studio from her home in fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, is an actress, a comedian, a character actress, a voiceover artist, and to tell us a little bit more about her wonderful story, please welcome the one and only Penny Wiggins. Penny, welcome to the podcast.
Very well, thank you. And how are you doing?
Doing wonderful, thank you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from.
Well, I grew up on St. Thomas, Virgin Islands, because my mom and dad owned a restaurant in Manhattan in New York where I was born. And then she forgot something, went back and saw him having sex on the floor with a waitress. You can beat that out. And then she said, "That's it, we're selling everything." And they moved to St. Thomas because that's where she'd honeymooned on her first marriage. So she loved it so much, we moved to a tiny little island. And that is where I grew up. And then I moved to California and I met amazing Jonathan. And he said, "Do you want to be in my show and my girlfriend?" And I said yes to the first one. And then we worked together for 12, 13 years. And in Vegas, of course. We got 1 week offer to come do a week here. And that turned into 13, 14 years.
Wow. So, at what age was it that you discovered that you just wanted to be an entertainer?
I think I was 2. Yeah, my dad said I was always doing little shows, even when I was a little kid.
I
So
think we were all guilty of that. Did you always know that you wanted to be a comedian?
what happened was I just wanted to be on Saturday Night Live or in Living Color or in Mad TV, on Mad TV. Those were like, or Cara Burnett. Cara Burnett was my idol. So that's how I got, who I think she helped me become who I am as far as my career goes. And then I was working as a waitress. I was working as a waitress in a cabaret, which I didn't know was a comedy cabaret when I went there. And all the comedians were like, "Oh my God, you're so funny. You should do comedy. You should." So I started doing comedy after that, but it was a fluke kind of that it's like, all right. And the first time I went on stage was at the Comedy Store in Hollywood, and my hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold the microphone. I was like, "Hi." Oh, I'll never forget that. And my legs were shaking. I was shaking beyond. And I've been
Man.
shaking ever since. Thank you.
Oh, like Elvis. So, man, you said something there that I wanted to jump back into. The Carol Burnett thing. Yeah. What a coincidence that one of her characters was Mrs. Wiggins.
Sure, get in here right now. Don't make me come over there. That was
Oh, Tim Conway. He was one of
now.
the best. One of the best. So many of those living legends and all passed, man. I mean, Carol Burnett, she's still doing good. Vicki Lawrence, I believe, still doing good.
Yep. Yep.
Man, that's awesome. So
She's
Carol
my
Burnett,
she's my hero, my big hero. I love her so much. I still do. I still want to meet her. I sort of met her once. She came to St. Thomas to do a movie, and she was on the boat, and I waved to her, and I was like, "Hi," and she waved back. So that was my big connection to Carol Burnett.
hey, at least you had that. That's awesome. I remember you did this fantastic Judy Garland impression that really stood out to me. So you obviously loved Wizard of Oz.
I did. That was and then look at this. There you go. All right.
Oh,
That's
that's much better.
This is Judy Garland and Rich Little. This is Rich Little's. He signed it for me because he's a phenomenal. I don't know if you know who Rich Little is, but he's a
Of
phenomenal
course.
artist too. So anyway, that's how I love Judy Garland. I grew up with Judy Garland, and she's one of my favorites. That movie was I can cry every time I watch it.
I feel the same way. I mean, that was the year that my mother was born, so it's a very special movie to me, and I watched it every year with her until her passing, and uh, just good memories, good memories.
Hmm.
So I know you do a lot more than that. So uh, tell us a little bit about what you do to keep yourself busy and working in Las Vegas.
Well, right now, I worked with Chris Angel too for 4 years after Jonathan. And so my whole thing is I do a lot of characters, and I still do kids parties, but mostly I do stand-up comedy still here in Vegas. And I do Facebook videos. That's what I've been doing right now. Excuse me. And that's how I've been, Facebook pays you for, your videos. So I do a lot of funny videos on Facebook
I didn't know that.
and reels, but also I'm doing a documentary about Vegas. So we shot it 3 years ago. So, but it's called The Night the Lights, my throat's gone. The Night the Lights Went Out in Vegas. And we interviewed 100 of the entertainers here because, this is the entertainment capital of the world. So shut down, it's no longer the entertainment capital of anything. So we interviewed 100 people of what you're doing now and what would you do if it never came back, blah, blah, blah. And we have like Carrot Tops in it, George Wallace, Jonathan, but he passed away, Louis Anderson. So it's a pretty great documentary. We're working on that right now. We finally got an editor, so it's taken 3 years though.
Didn't Louis also pass, or is he still with us?
No, he passed as well too.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, I tried to get a second interview because his first one was like the phone. He was like, "Hi, it's Louis Anderson." He didn't really know how to use he did a phone thing. It was like terrible quality, but it's like that's all we have. So, and
And that's so Louis.
and we tried so many times to get him to redo it, but he was sick. He got sick, and then he was on the TV show, and so that was really hard. But he was a really wonderful human being. I really loved him. So Jonathan too, he was my best friend.
So
But
tell us a little bit about your relationship with Jonathan.
oh, I was doing stand-up comedy in Redondo Beach at the Comedy and Magic Club. Jonathan was there because he and his wife were getting divorced. She had just left him, and he was really sad. So he, instead of being wallowing, he said, "I'll go to the comedy place and talk to my funny friends." Then he met me, and he sort of fell in love with me at first sight. I'm not boasting, but that's just what happened. He'll be the first to tell you that. And then he said, "Well, um, would you like to be in my show and replace my wife? We're getting divorced." And then he said, "Come out in the parking lot and I can show you the car that I bought her, that I presented to her." And then she left me the next day. It's so funny. Not funny. I mean, he was sad, and it took him a long time, but at least when we started like working together, we developed so much stuff, and it was golden, and it sort of revived him. And he was always so happy that he found me, and he went and came and saw my. I was in a show, a sketch comedy show, and he came and saw it 4 times, and he was bringing people left and right, and everyone's like, "Wow, we don't really picture her," but he said, "I don't care, I picture her." And so then that's how that happened, and thank God he fell in love with me, because I don't think he would have ever. But then, of course, thank God it mellowed out, and then he met someone else. Yay, waitresses. And then so that's how that all happened. And we went around the road. Then 6 months after that, we got Comedy Central. So that was like the highlight of my whole career, which was 20 something years ago. But that was a great experience to do Comedy Central, with him.
So he really kind of helped launch your career in that fact.
Yes.
I mean, you were already pretty big at that time. Had you ever done like A&E's Evening at the Improv or any
Yeah,
of those?
I did Evening at the Improv once, but no, I wasn't like, when he said, "You want to come to Vegas for a week?" I said, "Sure." And then when he said, "All right, they want to extend the contract to 2 years," I'm like, "What?" It was not something that was in my plan at all. And I lived in a hotel. I lived in a hotel for a year, which was really fun because I had 2 adjoining suites. So I used to have people come stay with me, and it was really fun. It was really fun to stay in a hotel. Like, you wake up, get your coffee, then you have all day to hang out, and then you go do your show at night, and then you go eat. We always ate afterwards. Yeah, 22 years ago. So
Where have
anyway,
the years gone?
yeah, right. And then I bought my very first house when I was 40, and I was so scared to even live in. I have a 2 bedroom, I mean a 3 bedroom, 2,200 square foot house. So imagine coming from an apartment, a small little apartment, into a big house at 40. So it's like, wow, I was so scared to live in it by myself. And then Jonathan kept going, "Go live in your house and stop living at the hotel." I'm like, "No." And I finally did, but that was quite an experience to buy a house, So
Beautiful thing about the hotel is you got a staff that cleans for free.
that was the best part ever. Trying to say, can you guys come clean my house?" No.
So yeah, in 2006, I had an opportunity to check out your show with Jonathan.
Where did you see it? Where was it? Were we at the Riviera or Flamingo?
I would go to the Flamingo.
Yeah, probably Flamingo. That's where I also got stapled in the eye, because Jonathan has a bit where he staples the cards over my eyes, and it's a staple gun, but it's all the staples have been taken out. Apparently, all the staples were taken out, so it wasn't a functional staple gun. But he was getting really tired of the bit, I think, and he kept going lower and lower. I'm like, "Jonathan, you have to go higher." And then 2 days later, we got a new staple gun, boom, and it shoots a staple in my eye, pops out. My eye started deflating. I thought it was bleeding, and I just ran off the stage. And I'm like, ah! And he said, oh my God. He's like, I guess that bit is over. And then I looked to see if it was blood. It wasn't. So I just came back out. I finished the show and then sold t-shirts even after. And then we went to the emergency room and they go, oh, it's just like you just have like a little sand in your eyes. And the next day we went to the eye doctor and they go, if you'd waited one more day, you would have been blind in the eye because it was slowly deflating because it got punctured. So some experiences to never forget. And then I got stitches in my eye, like 8, and then for 3 weeks the show was dark. I mean, the show wasn't dark. I was out of the show for 3 weeks, which in all of our time together, 13, 14 years, I had never, ever, ever called in sick, ever, never, not once. So
It's a fun job, it sounds like.
it's really fun. I mean, aside from the
Oh yeah, the stunts and
Yeah.
staples in the eye,
staples and
speakers falling from.
speakers, and then also he had nunchucks where he hit me on the head, but they were foam, but they still hurt. And he goes, "Stop crying like a baby." Every time he hit me, I'm like, "But it hurts." And he goes, "You're just being a baby." So,
That sounds like you guys were very close friends.
well, we were best friends, that's for sure. I was one of his best friends. He was one of mine.
So tell us a little bit about Aryan Black.
Aryan Black.
Speaks about
I don't
you.
want to talk about this. I don't want to talk about any Aryan. I'm just kidding. No, Aryan is one of my favorite people, and I adore her beyond. And she's really talented, and I just she was always such a great support, a really good team player because we had her opening for us for about 2 years, and Jonathan adored her as well. She was very beloved in our little circle.
I did not see an opening act when I went there and saw you guys. I guess
No,
at that
we
point.
didn't. We don't think we always had opening acts in the very beginning. But then Jonathan, we did. I guess I have to take that back because we had Billy McComb. I don't know if you know him, but
I adored Billy.
I know we adored Billy too, and he was such a gentleman. Well, man, it's Billy McComb. I don't know, how are you? My social security number is 0. So funny. That's surprising. Wait, you saw us at the I think maybe we went through a period of not having opening acts. That's probably when you saw us. Like not long, because Jonathan loved to have opening acts because he was always late. So it was always good to have someone open the show.
So was there any telltale signs that Jonathan was failing? Was it a health thing? I mean,
Well, he had an enlarged heart. So that he was born with. So he's always had some sort of heart issues. But I think the meth probably did him in, my guess. Because that's what he did, was meth. He was a meth addict. And he'll be the first to tell you that, if he was around. But he was a meth addict, and that sort of, messed up his body badly. So sadly. And we tried an intervention once, and he said, "I know what you're doing, so get out of here." It was a very failed intervention, but he said, "I don't care. I'm doing what I'm going to do. Makes me happy, and I'm sorry. I'm doing what I want to do." He's always been like that his whole life.
And his character on stage pretty much amplified that character. Well, that aspect, obviously, because he did the bit where he wrapped the cord around his arm and did the thing with I mean, he had some pretty out there material.
He was a genius. He was a genius for sure. A genius beyond. I've never seen, and I never will, anyone with a mind like his. And he was generous and a kind, wonderful human being to me. And we got in our fights. Believe me, we got in big fights. And he fired me probably 4 times, 5 times. But he's one of those kinds of people that forgives, and says, all right, he doesn't hold it. He never held grudges. So he was just a really dear friend and so funny. Think probably the funniest person I've ever met in my life. And you could just say, here's a joke. And he could just go, here's the funny. So he could take a joke and make it funny. And he helped so many other acts, so with never ever asking for money from anybody. He's like, here, try this, you know. So you can ask many comics here in Vegas or magicians too. And he was always very generous with his time. So that's, you know, a great guy. And I was really honored to know him and have him in my life.
Amen to that. Amen. Well,
Hallelujah.
that's and I am sorry for your loss on your friend. It is that that's rough.
Yeah, it was rough. It was rough. But he'd been predicting he was going to die for 8 years. So, so it wasn't like, oh my God, what a shock. But he was like, I'm gonna be dead. I have a year to live, and that year turned into 8 years. Thank God. So we had 8 extra years to be with him, and he died on 2/22/22. So it's very befitting, you know.
Wow.
I know.
That is he had to go out in style, didn't he?
Yep.
So the character of Psychic Tanya, I know that was originally his first wife or second wife or third wife. I don't know. I can't keep track. But that was, how long had that character been going on before you took the reins on it?
Oh, that character was, well, his wife was Psychic Sandra, but she was just a normal person. When I took over, there was this girl I knew who went, oh, and I thought, that's a great sound. And so I took the sound and was like, oh, okie dokie. And so I sort of made it into a character just from a sound. And then I was in a blonde dress with like a Marilyn Monroe type long blonde hair. And you know, that's how it started, with a blonde Marilyn dress, blonde, you know, pink gloves. I mean, that pink dress she wore in anyway, so that dress was anyway nixed, and we got a really beautiful dress made for me. And then my hair got shorter, and because the long hair didn't work, and then people were like, your voice is very shrill, because I was like, okie dokie, you know, really high. And so that developed, and then Jonathan and I would spend hours and hours and hours writing joke. We probably had 3 pages of, you know, or, you know, probably 2 hours of jokes, just writing like mad people. So, because it was a new thing for him in his life. And so we really devoured it basically. And it became, you know, as the show. And he was very like, do whatever you want, but stick to what we're doing, you know? So I had leeway, but I mean, I had to follow the show line, but the leeway is what made me funny, because I've been in a lot of shows where like, just say your lines, don't move, you know, you're like, okay, and don't mess it up. But he was like, here's, you know, a rough draft of what I want you to do. And then I just did it. And that was the best way to perform in my life. The best way you could ever, as a performer, you would want nothing more than someone say, go.
Yeah, so that gives the character time to actually breathe its own life. And yeah, I got you. I got you. So you mentioned that you did kids' parties. Are you a magician as well, or
I can do simple magic, the coloring book, and you know, the wands that go up and down, and the chain, I don't know what it's called, the bag that you put the stuff in, and it has
the old change bag?
Yeah, the change bag, and just simple magic. But I am by far not a magician. I don't have a bone in me that's close to being as a magician. No way.
So what was it like performing at the Magic Castle then?
I was Psychic Tanya, so I just followed Jonathan's lead basically.
Okay.
But it was a great audience. Boy, did they love it. They loved it. So it was
It's
like
a beautiful place to perform, that's for sure.
beautiful. I love that Magic Castle so much. It was one of my favorite places on earth to go to with Jonathan. Like, Open Sesame. So that
Yes.
was Irma.
I love the plays. I love the plays. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I loved Irma too. Can you play My Funny Valentine? And Irma's like, whap, whap. I love
And
that Magic Castle.
and she'll drink a drink if you give her one. Yes, the Magic Castle, one of the most esteemed private magic clubs on the planet. Nothing like it. It's like the
Beautiful.
Disneyland for magicians.
Yes, it was fantastic.
So would you say that was your like favorite place to perform?
Well, no, I mean I loved it there, but we did a stadium. I think when we did Comedy Central, it was so beautiful. The theater and that's probably one of my favorite. And we've done some phenomenal in Australia. We did some like 3,000 seats, 2,000, 5,000 seaters, packed to the rim, because Jonathan was he lived in Australia for 6 months out of the year with his wife. So, um, yeah, so but that theater in Australia, we did a couple. I don't remember the name of them, but it was amazing. Those theaters in Australia, it was like, wow, amazing. Have you been to Australia, John?
I have never been to Australia. In fact, I've rarely left California. And when I did leave California, it was to Arkansas when my stepdad passed away. And that was his funeral was 9/11.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so you can imagine that how that day transpired. Um, I had flew to Arkansas and suddenly found myself having to drive back because planes weren't in the air at that time.
Oh,
And
yes, that's right.
so I had an opportunity to visit many Cracker Barrels across the camp.
No. Yep.
Love the Cracker Barrel. And that's not racist anyway. Do you see Psychic Tanya making a return?
Well, I've done many returns, many returns. I don't know if you know, Steve, what's his name? I forgot his, but Steve Henrik, I forgot his stage name, but he has a show, a magic show in is that Arkansas maybe, or one of those little towns. But he has a comedy, a magic convention or a magic thing every year. And so I went and I hosted part of it. And then I've done a ton of other things as Psychic Tanya. She's not dead yet, my friends. She's not dead yet. Jonathan and I had spoken about it when I went with Chris Angel. I was doing Psychic Tanya ish. And so I cleared it with Jonathan before, because I would never do that, unless, he's like, nope, I don't want you doing that. I would have not done it. But he's like, I don't care. Do whatever you want. And then he also had Psychic Bambi and Psychic blah, blah, all of his girlfriends' names.
I'm sensing a little bit of a pattern here. So the maniacal and crazy,
Amazing.
Jonathan.
Yep.
Every trick in the book. And by golly, I picked that up one evening and it was very late. My kid was sleeping, everyone was sleeping, and I started reading some of the stuff in the book and I just blurted out loud in laughter. It was like,
I know.
some of those things are so ridiculous. It's like, you couldn't get away with that.
Yeah.
Not without somebody punching you.
Wow.
So tell me, Miss Moneypenny, how many other characters do you do in your act?
I probably do maybe 30 different characters. Not in my act, but just I have a closet full of clothes, the wigs, loads of wigs, probably more than most people. But I love doing characters. I would have to say, Carol Burnett, my idol. I can't let her down. So
Absolutely. Man, that would be pretty fun to do some skits with you. Put together some stuff on Zoom. revive Mrs. Wiggins
You get in
You-
here right now.
right now. What is your future looking like for you?
Well, goal-wise, to be on a TV show as a regular, making lots of money, honey, and or even getting a show here in Vegas, which would be fantastic too. And you know, a one-woman show is also part of my bag of goals. So those are all things I'd like to do. I was going to move back to LA, and I tried, but then COVID hit like a hurricane. So that ended that time. So then I ended up staying here. But here's great because I have so many friends where, you know, we all work together filming and editing, and so that's all it takes is the right video that someone sees and they're like, boom, Mrs. Wiggins in the lights.
Indeed. I'll leave a link down below to your Facebook, your YouTube page, and how the audience can look you up and check out your material. Any other suggestions on how people can find
Well, you can go to pennywiggins.com. And then I do have a lot on YouTube. I have loads of stuff on YouTube. So you can check that out for laughs and giggles. And
Indeed.
yep. So it was great talking to you, John. And
Wonderful having you.
thank you. And I'll see you probably in another time.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's all the time we have for today. I would like to thank my very special guest, Miss Penny Wiggins, for joining us. It was a wonderful pleasure to interview her and to catch up with her after all these years. Well, I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, once again, please remember, hit that like and subscribe. And also, if you would like to check out Penny Wiggins' work, I'll leave a link down below to her YouTube channel, her Facebook, and some of her upcoming events. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I'm John Marshall. Till the very next episode, God bless you.
What is that, a cross cut?